What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hours, the Bullpen. Sorry, I get used to doing the Grappling Hour first. Nonetheless, this is a joint venture between our good friends over at Inside BJJ, and we are happy to say that we are joined by the editor-in-chief, the CEO, the boss man of all things Inside BJJ, one Tim Freeman. Tim, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, Raf? I am stoked to be here. One more chance we get to talk about our favorite thing ourselves, and then a little bit of jiu-jitsu. Mostly us, a little bit of BJJ. But I'm stoked to be here. I got my PGF World shirt on.
I see that.
Took good care of this. It's still white. I kept it crispy white. I've only worn it one time since the PGF, so I'm feeling good about that.
It is incredibly soft, so I've worn it a couple times. And it is very, very comfortable. So super stoked. Nope, not RIP you, RIP Kevin, who has just informed us he will not be able to make it here today. So our thoughts and prayers on out to Kevin Sherrill. We hope that he is okay. If he is not, we are not responsible for that.
Correct.
I think that's a good way of saying it. We just want to make sure it's very clear. The show did not do anything to Kevin. But nonetheless, I feel like it's a pretty intense week for certain topics, and there's one that I'm just itching to talk about. So why don't we just jump to the board itself? And the first thing, obviously, for us to talk about, the imminent return of the GOAT, Marcelo Garcia, getting it done via north-south choke at 1FC today. Tim, I'm going to start with this. How excited were you to see a return to form for one Marcelo Garcia?
I was super stoked, man. And I gotta admit, I was a little bit nervous at the same time because a part of me was thinking, man, he has been off of the competition scene since 2011. That is a serious time frame to go through just without the health situations that he had to deal with. We know he dealt with cancer. He went through a lot of things to get his way all the way back into competitive jiu-jitsu. And when they announced this against Imanari, who's a game opponent, like it's almost the perfect matchup for Marcelo to come back to. I was nervous watching him walk down to the ring, or to the cage, I should say, and won. But he looked so happy and so relaxed to see him get in there, and he just went like right back after it again. He was aggressive. He was offensive. He dictated the match, and he finished with a classic Marcelo move. Dude, it was a good time watching that match. I was very, very happy. And to be honest, Imanari seemed like he was happy for him as well. He seemed like, he kind of realized like he would play the spoiler if he could have, but he wasn't super upset about the outcome of that match. It didn't seem that way to me.
It's also a very awkward spot for him to be like, all right, Marcelo, you beat cancer. Also beating you, Imanari. Like, I don't know what to do with this, so it really doesn't put him in the best of lights. And yet, we were so worried about who the opponent was going to be, because if you follow other sports, and we were talking a little bit about this off air, you get the Paul brothers picking on Mike Tyson. It's just a world that has no civility or appreciation for our GOATs. And yet, as dumb as we are here in jiu-jitsu, it seemed like we gave him an age-appropriate opponent here. And it made sense on paper.
Yeah, it really did. He was age-appropriate, but also dangerous. So we know that there's anybody that has a move named after them, especially if it's a leg lock, means like it could be serious danger. You're playing with a snake and you might get bit. But I think it was a good matchup. It was a smart move. I'm interested in seeing who Marcelo comes out against next. I'm assuming he's hungry to get back in there and do this.
So he said at the very end of his match, he's like, yeah, I'm itching to get back out here, as if almost to allude to the fact that he waited so long to do it. And there was an additional thing that was kind of adorable about it, where they had mentioned that it was the first time he really got to compete in front of his kids. And then you saw the joy in their eyes. You couldn't help but feel so happy for him. And he made mention, he said there was somebody else that he had mentioned he wanted to have a match with. And I don't know if my ears are bad or I just didn't hear who it was. but I didn't necessarily hear a name, but it seemed like he was suggesting somebody was supposed to have the first crack at him, and they don't quite know where that stands, but he's down to do it ASAP. So, Tim, I think that takes us to our second topic that you put on the board for us, which is, okay, all things considered, and a nice continuation of where we left off there. If we're playing fantasy booking here, who are we booking these people with next? Who are we booking Imanari with? And who, if anybody, do we think might have been the person that Marcelo was alluding to here? And I'll go ahead and put some time on the clock for you, and you can start us off here, Tim.
You know, I'm not positive who he was alluding to. I thought that perhaps he would have a match against Mikey Musumeci. This is actually what I was thinking they were gonna try to pull off at CJI last year. Obviously, that didn't materialize. Moving forward, I'd love to see Marcelo against just about anybody. If we're talking fantasy matchups, now the age differential could be a problem for Marcelo, but I would like to see Rafa Mendes come out of retirement, have a match against Marcelo, or have a match against anybody. And I've been saying this for a while now. Rafa's the guy that we really need to see come back because he's still young enough and he's still competitive enough when you watch him rolling in his academy with his students, with guests that come in. And, you know, by the way, his students are high level guys. They're winning worlds. They're winning all these super fights. They're out there. They're really great at jiu-jitsu. I just think he's the guy that could really come back and do it. Outside of that, I do have another fantasy matchup that I have two that I would like to see. One, I want to see this in the MMA format. I want to see Buchecha and Rodolfo Vieira run it back with MMA rules and see who wins this match. These guys had epic matches in the gi. I know not every pajama fighting, but man, they sure were entertaining a few years back when they were running that out last decade. I'd like to see these guys put the gloves on, throw the mouthpieces in, get in the cage, and start punching, and then really see who the better jiu-jitsu fighter is. On top of that, my last fantasy matchup, Raph, and you may shake your head in disgust, but we're talking fantasy matches. I'm talking special resurrection match. I want to settle it. Michael Jackson versus Prince. Prince can dance. Michael can dance. Prince can sing. Michael can sing. Prince can almost ride a motorcycle. His feet almost touch the pedals. But can he defend against Michael Jackson's crotch grab sidekick? I don't know if anybody can stop that. That's the matchup that I want to see.
Okay. Of this in the community. Let me go ahead and map this out for you. Prince versus Michael. Well, Prince played basketball, so that means he's got some stamina. He's able to move quickly, but people don't know that one of the issues that Prince had was Prince danced and well, like very good for him. But later in life, his knees were giving him problems. And there was a rumor, and I don't know exactly how to substantiate this because it gets into religion, so apologies if I'm misrepresenting something here. But there was a rumor that Prince didn't want to get a operation or any kind of blood transfusion because, I guess, of his religion. And to me, I heard that rumor and I was like, I don't know what's true. All I know is Prince was one of the baddest musicians of all time. The fact that his biggest rival was Michael Jackson tells you a few things. One, Mike had a fucking video game made after him where you would spin and dance and kick. It was amazing. I stole it from my neighbor. He did this thing where we did a video game switch. And it was like him being like, here, you use this one, I'll use this one. I was like, I am not giving this back. I have Michael Jackson's Moonwalker in perpetuity now. You can keep whatever Night Adventure video game I gave you, sir. But I think the aggressiveness in which Mike would kick you would be a problem for Prince. I think that the reach goes Mike. I think that the takedowns go to Mike. I don't think it goes well for Prince. I think the consensus is that Prince might have walked all over Mike. I don't think that's the case. And there's a little known fact about Michael. Everybody loves to do the Michael impression of like, oh no, you don't even know. That's stupid. That's ignorant. That was his pretend voice. Mike, anytime you took off the lip sync, because he would sing over the track. It was real deep. Mike had a real low voice. And one of my favorite things to do, you guys can go look this up, on the history tour, when they would cut to the live mics, because God bless the Jacksons, I say this, if you dance and you really put in work dancing, not like a Britney Spears thing, because Britney could dance a little, but she doesn't dance as much anymore, so she could have been singing. But if you're Mike, you're Janet, sometimes Reby, you get out there and you dance your ass off, you can use a headset mic, and you don't have to sing into it. I don't expect that. But when Mike would have the microphone turned on, it would go from a pristine album vocal to like, there's a moment where in the song In the Closet, where he has like a spoken word part, and for whatever reason he didn't want to lip that part too, so it would go from like this, she's gonna get it, oh she's gonna get it, perfect sounding, to one thing in life you must understand, the lust of woman to man. Like, it makes me laugh because it's just like, Mike, we believe you. Just lip this part too. We don't judge you, man. We understand it's not easy. So if you ever get the chance to listen to him, that deep voice, one thing in life you must understand, super long bass. And Prince had good bass too. But I see a note here. Let's go ahead and address these two things. It says, hello, fellas. With Kevin out today, Tim will definitely win court today. Great shirt.
Oh, come on now. My boy Wallow's coming at me like that. With the way my experience has gone in court, I think I would lose even if I argued against a non-present Kevin.
I would say this for you, Tim. I think that you experienced some hardship last week.
Right.
Yeah.
My cross X was a disaster. Totally fell apart. Didn't get my point across. I think analogies were not well received. A couple of sports ones were okay, but then I probably got a little bit off. And generally my tactic is if I can't argue the point, then I attack the person. And I don't think I did enough of that. And I personally in my closing statement, instead of trying to come up with a new idea on the fly, it just didn't work. So
I would say there is a little bit of this for me, in that if it really does get tied all the way down when I'm flowing your arguments, aka writing them down, if it's tied all the way through, like an unbreakable tie, I will go into a separate column that just says nonsense. And if one of you is a little bit more powerful on the nonsense scale, you win. That's pretty much what it comes to. And last week, you start off strong. Kevin comes in, makes this an Avengers analogy that I go, yeah, it kind of works. That makes sense. And then as he's starting to give you the argument back, which is, are we not a super team? That can work two ways. And I was like, well, let's see where this goes. And then, stuff happened. You kind of were going down with the ship, which I did appreciate. But it had gone so far from super teams for CJI that we were saying, like, do you guys ever notice that in the NBA basketballs, they do this? And, I have some issues with the NBA's all-star team. And I go, where are we going? Like, how the fuck do I clip this and say, like, Craig, have you thought of these things? Instead, I was like, Craig, do not watch this episode, if at all.
The other thing he got me on was name one person you would want on your on your team from another school, right? And I was like, you're the first person I saw. So I was like, Raph?
It's so amazingly hilarious that I'm watching this happen in real time, and I go, there's nothing I can do to stop this. And I have to wait. That's the best part of that segment. I am essentially waiting for 7.5 to 8 minutes to happen before I talk again. And in that time, I just have a lot of trust in the two of you, and I don't know what's going to happen. So, good and bad. Now, Wallow, you put this up and you said Prince is the GOAT. Those two are my top GOATs. But Princess Purple Rain. No one on their right mind is seeing this man in this album. Like, nobody's touching this. Wanna be starting something. Baby Be Mine. The Girl Is Mine. Those two, whatever. But this run, Thriller, Beat It, Billie Jean. No one is ever touching that in their lifetime again. Thriller, Beat It, and Billie Jean. If Thriller was just those three songs, it would still be the greatest of all time. Then you had Human Nature, PYT, and The Lady in My Life. You're not. And I love Purple Rain. Purple Rain is like top tier for me as well. Just, you're not touching that in this lifetime.
You can't do it. I'm with you, man.
Let's go to our next topic, which is buzz. It appears that some buzz has been made for this incredible looking match. Tim, I'm stoked for Adele versus Ffion, and there's a lot more that's still brewing underneath, but we can maybe go into talking a little bit about the upcoming Fight Pass Invitational number 10. I'll put the camera on you. You've got some time.
Yeah, so the UFC Fight Pass just announced for Fight Pass Invitational 10, their marquee matchup, which is going to be Ffion Davies against Adele Fornarino. And this could be the battle for the pound for pound best, for sure, for the females, but it might be across the board. The best pound for pound title is up for grabs here. These two ladies have had a hell of a run in 2024. They were both undefeated in their runs. Obviously, Davies, her run actually started back in 2022. She won gold at IBJJF World. She won the ADCC World Championship. She continued similar success in 2023 with the IBJJF gi and no gi world titles. She looked fantastic at CJI too. She's just really building herself up as the best female jiu-jitsu player in the world. On the same token, Fornarino, she went undefeated in 2024. She won at ADCC. She picked up the win at Who's Number One. She's just on a run. She's been almost unstoppable. She got a nice title-winning submission over Sofia Casella. So these two ladies, like, this is coming to a head. It's pretty tough to predict, but I don't think you can bet against Ffion right now. I think Ffion, she doesn't just have her accomplishments behind her. She's got the momentum of everything she did last year in terms of like taking a stand for jiu-jitsu, letting her feelings be known about the way she thought things went down with ADCC and CJI. She put it on the line, and she's going to have all that good karma coming with her to Fight Pass 10. Either way, it's going to be a great, great matchup. I can't wait to see who the other names are that are going to headline this card and be on it. But I don't think you can bet against Ffion. My money's on Ffion. I think she's going to get the win. I think it's going to be a tough match, but at this point, you got to ride with her, man.
Well said. And I think there's something that we probably are needing to discuss here, which is, okay, they both have been on these amazing runs. Are you the least bit surprised, though, that the people that made this happen were the Fight Pass Invitational folks? Not to say that they're incapable of doing that sort of a thing, but it really speaks well to their matchmaking and how closely they're looking at trying to figure out, to borrow from another organization's phraseology, who really is number one. Because to me, that's what this is. So when I saw this match come up, I go, oh, that was well played by them.
Yeah, I think Fight Pass Invitational and UFC Fight Pass, they have an extra kind of tool in their arsenal in that everybody recognizes that branding. And most athletes, especially jiu-jitsu athletes, are going to want to jump on those matches, and they're kind of agnostic in the jiu-jitsu religious wars. Like, they don't care who you competed for. They just want to get you on their card, build you up, get some viewers from it. And so it becomes an acceptable place to compete for. It's not like you have to go, well, man, I really took a stand against this organization. Now, like, I can't go compete for their best friends. It's not like that. Fight Pass is like, hey, we're our own thing. We're independent. And they got resources. They can pick off the big names. And I'm sure they're paying them reasonably well for jiu-jitsu. So it is surprising, but it does make sense.
But it's not just that as well. It's obviously you recognize they have the name brand recognition, but there have been plenty of organizations that we've seen during our time that have good intentions,
Sure,
start with money, and then give you something that you go, that's not bad. I kind of like that. That's an interesting matchup. And they bank all of that on one or two matchups. In this case, it's no, this is the one you want to see. And solidifying their place as a destination for female grapplers as well. Because to me, if I'm a female grappler and I'm looking for somewhere to go, at the very least, UFC said we're paying attention, because that is the premier one you could do. And not to say that we couldn't just find somebody for Adele or for Ffion to beat up. They said, let's not even do a 1 or 2 educational match. Let's get straight to it. And I have a huge appreciation for that. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I'm intrigued to see what it's like because, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that not the headlining match of that card?
Yeah, that's the headlining match.
So it also, to my knowledge, marks the first time the females have actually headlined a Fight Pass Invitational, which also bodes well. And more importantly, if we're talking about them taking bold stances within this next year, a very big proclamation, because we've seen a lot of women be on cards, but they don't always headline them. So big props to the UFC for making that happen. I feel like these are the right two athletes, and we'll see what comes of it, but very much looking forward to that. That is happening in March, or is this February? When is this?
It's in March. Yeah. I believe it's early March. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's like March 6th or something to that effect.
I think you're right. That's what I was going to say. But lately I've been a fountain of disinformation. And so I'm trying to fact check myself.
What kind of disinformation would you have possibly spouted specifically on a show that maybe we work on together, Tim?
Yeah, and it might be the kind of information that gets cut up into a clip and shared on social media. What I did was I did not lie. I combined two facts together that really don't have a relationship with each other is what I did. So on last week's show, I had made this statement that the PGF qualifiers in Alabama that was hosted under the Enigma banner, the Enigma promotion, that the finals resulted in a DQ because one of the athletes left and then put 10th Planet in his GPS and went to the wrong gym. Now, that is true. An athlete did leave and he did get called back and he did go to the wrong gym, but it wasn't in the finals match. It was in one of the super fights. And so my apologies to Anthony Molina and the good people at PGF. The commission, he's got a real bad temper. He's going to be upset about this, but somebody did leave, which does strike me funny. And it does strike me funny that they went to the wrong 10th Planet. Seems like something I would possibly do myself. But Molina had a good win there. He actually did win, and he does deserve that berth into the PGF for season 8. So congratulations to you. Accept my apologies. Raf, I'm very sorry that you repeated this to someone else.
Not just someone. The guy.
I wasn't going to say that.
That won. So it's not just like I went up to a hobo and spouted some disinformation. I went to the person that qualified and said, hey, I heard you won by disqualification. He's like, no. And I go, okay, well, it says disqualification here on Smooth Comp. So not only did your lie happen on this show, but it reverberated to Smooth Comp that said, well, we got to believe Tim, so we're just going to have to change the record now. So that when this poor kid's looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I watched part of it. I thought you had a match. But what gets confusing, and now I remember this a little more clear, it used to be that you had to beat the person twice for the qualifiers.
Yes.
So when you would watch a qualifier, you could somehow see somebody return back from the dead. And conceptually, you're like, what are they doing? Are we still going? Oh my God, it's a double elimination. And then to make things even more insane, it used to be that if you saw the person, you killed them, you had to kill them twice. So it's like you're looking at this very strange way of qualifying, and it made sense at the time, but it seems that now it's a single elimination. So in my head, I was like, did I see an elimination round? Did they come back? Is this the right record? I don't know exactly what's happening. But cut to an interview that is now for everybody behind Patreon. They'll see it first. You guys will see it in about a month. But I'm asking Molina, I'm like, hey, man, so what happened at the end of that match? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, did you win by disqualification? Like, how did that work? And he goes, no. And I go, well, Tim told me. I'm going to have to stop talking to him now. Okay.
Fucking Tim, man.
Well, no, I just realized I was like, it could be a simple error. Then I look at Smooth Comp and it's like disqualification. I go, well, Smooth Comp says you won by disqualification. He's like, that's some bullshit. I can't believe it says that. I go, yep. It's Smooth Comp, not us. Definitely not my co-host for a show. But I had just graciously told him, I was like, I saw you win, but I wasn't sure if it was the winning match or part of your journey. And he was very funny about that. So we had a good laugh. So thank you, Tim. But you know what's really weird is I talked to you off air and you were like, oh, yeah, that sounds about right. So it does tell me that sometimes you forge ahead in this show where you go, I don't know if this is true or not, but we're going to find out together as a group. And
well,
I just thought to myself, I was like, I'm not even mad. I just wanted to make sure you knew, because that was also the clip that Brian picked for us. I know.
Listen, man, factual, sometimes entertaining nonetheless. I always err on the side of entertainment.
You know what? Can't deny that. That is always going to be the primary real estate here. And speaking of which, we got a note here from Egg that says, good afternoon, gentlemen. I see Kevin is AWOL again. So I like that when people see the clip of what the show looks like, they're like, is he here? Where is he? I don't see him. Of course, that
Kevin.
Not no do-gooder. Kevin Sherrill here. Unfortunately, he's not here. He is, to my knowledge, working to be a good training partner and coach. So we will, of course, see him later at some time. So that is our note for you guys. But why don't we continue this on? You know, you mentioned this with a little bit of a note here, Tim, to me, but it does look like some impressive things happened, and there was an ADCC that happened in San Diego. So what exactly happened from your eyesight? And mind you, I'm hoping these are real facts, so do not hold me responsible if any of this is inaccurate.
These are like cousins to the truth. They're in the same family. It's related. Well, you know, there's so much talk about CJI, and rightfully so, there should be. And there's been a lot of negative talk about ADCC. I think that's fair to say. I don't think that's a secret. I don't think that's me piling on. I've made my fair share of jokes. I'm always here for the funny, and, you know, sometimes it's an easy target. However, ADCC is still running strong as an organization, and the reason I threw this up there is I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw the pictures from the ADCC Open in San Diego. Just the 83 kilogram division, the top three guys were Knox Gracie, Jet Thompson, and Cam Hurd. And those are all PGF veterans. Those are all guys that compete all over there in all promotions. They're winning. They're doing fantastic. This was just a division in the ADCC Open that you can just register and go compete in. These three dudes were in that bracket. Some other big names, Abraham LaMontagne, the Mountain. We know he was also a PGF, Ian Dobb. The thing that kind of Kevin Crane, Gerard James, these are all guys that are very active and out there on the scene right now, putting in work at the ADCC Opens. And what this tells me is a viable promotion to compete for, and that ADCC has a strong infrastructure. And that's something that honestly a lot of the other promotions don't have. They don't have what, let's not call it prestige, let's just call it legacy. ADCC has a legacy, they have a lore, they have a backstory, but they also have a deep infrastructure, and they're running tournaments and they're giving their athletes more opportunities to compete in that rule set and get exposure for that promotion. And I think ADCC 2026 is actually going to be one of the bigger ones that we've seen. And I think it's possible we actually might see the tide start to shift a little bit, at least in people's opinion of like, yeah, we hated them for a while, but everybody loves a good redemption story. Everybody wants to see someone who's down kind of build themselves back up again. And if they play it right and they put the work in and they feature the athletes and they do what they can do, they make improvements, I think 2026 is going to be a big year for them. They got future events coming up: Portland, San Jose, Dallas. These are big cities with lots of good grapplers. So I expect the ADC Opens to start becoming, they're not already, one of the premier places for these guys to compete.
Thank you for that, Tim. I appreciate it. Just to point this out, I feel like ADCC gets this season to kind of regroup if they want to. But one thing is clear. Grapplers are thirsty, so they'll go wherever a good competition is. And you are seeing some really incredible grapplers out there getting in reps, and a lot of them are actually moving away from maybe smaller competitions and maybe focusing more on these. Some of whom are actually flying out to different regions. I mean, Cam flying out to San Diego is pretty big. I was hoping that maybe I could touch base with them and like maybe grab a bite or go hang out. And
go shopping together.
I mean, maybe. I don't know that I could wear what he wears, because Cam's fashion style, it ranges in many different ways. He actually had one of his most like pimp costumes, if you would. His pimp getup was him, the Washington Sentinels gear, like colors.
Oh, nice.
And had like a suit jacket with that burgundy, maroon, red, and it just looked so good. And then sometimes he also veers to the style that looks like he killed what he is wearing. So it kind of goes from all the different spectrums on that. But no, I didn't even get a chance to see him because everybody was so in, out, quickly, go, go, go. But everybody's asking me, they're like, are you going to San Diego? And I go, I have things to do, kids. Not able to make it to that one, but stoked to see it. What I would say is this. I feel like ADCC, with whatever their new direction or their new head is going to be, you have it as a rebuilding year this year. You're off the hook. Just put together good events. And more importantly, really assess what works for your company and be honest with the feedback that you got, because you got a ton of feedback and you can come back. It happens and things transgress very quickly in this sport. But be very clear, you got feedback, and to ignore it or pretend like it didn't exist will only continue to perpetuate the problem. So please be very mindful of what your audience is trying to tell you. Tim, you put this one up here, and I feel like this one is one that I should maybe address. It does look like Usman Kamaru, if you would, he was going to the WWE Performance Center. And I guess the question is, what is he doing there, right? Because you think to yourself, this is a dude who's definitely more in the WWE, if you would, than he is in the UFC, because it's been a minute. And it's kind of like, what do we do with this guy? There have been some names mentioned, but you start to wonder, like, why are him and Triple H in a photo op together? And more importantly, that point that Triple H does in every photo is normally designated for people who just signed to the company. Everybody refers to it as, oh, I need my Triple H photo. They want that point. So that point to wrestling fans, even though it may not seem like a big deal, was like, what are you doing here, Triple H? Are you saying that Usman's in the WWE now? Because I'm kind of into it in that it would be something that DC never got to do. I don't know if the flashy personality translates, but it definitely does better than Michael Chandler, who tried inciting his own chant when he visited a WWE event that very quickly the camera just turned away from him and they went for it. But I guess the question is there somebody currently in the UFC that you're looking to see in the WWE? Maybe one that we haven't thought of, Tim.
Yes, there's two guys, and The first one might be controversial, and I mean this with all due respect. I love pro wrestling, and you have to do some things like this. You got to do it with some manner of taste, but just hear me out. I think it could work. I would like to see 100% Sean Strickland come to the UFC basically as cousin Wyatt. Now, I love Bray Wyatt. He was an amazing wrestler. All respect to him and his family. But I think Strickland can come in as like a cousin and team up with Luke Harper or Eric Rowan and just go bananas. Like every match, he could come out angry. He can get dark. He can get mean. He can cuss in the mic. And then it would perfect WWE. The fans would eat it. The second thing that I really think they could cash in on is to bring Craig Jones into the WWE as the new leader of the new Degeneration X. Gabby Garcia reprised the role of China. Nikki Ryan could be Nick Pac. You could bring in Nikki Rodriguez. He's not going to be Triple H. We know that. He'll be triple something else, but I would love to see it. I think Craig has just the right amount of charisma. Got the things, a little mean-spirited, but he's also lovable. I think for sure he could pull it off. Look, there's lots of tough guys, big, strong guys, big-looking, mean guys. They'll go in there and slam people around. I don't care about that. I want the personalities. I want the entertainment. Those are my two picks to see in the WWE.
You know, there's one that I think you're missing. You're close, but if you're talking about the DX and the Click sort of era, I think that Nicky Rod fits the description of a Diesel or a Kevin Nash. He kind of role. Don't let him talk for too long. For sure, don't let him book. But good things could happen there because I could see a Nicky Rod and almost maybe a Damian Anderson as Scott Hallish kind of a guy. And then Ethan Krelliston could be X-Pac. I think that's how that one works. I think somewhere in that region. But no, I think is closer. You might have you've just come into thinking about this for a while, Tim. But these aren't bad picks. I will be honest about that. It does seem like this is something that you had thought about way before we had assigned this as a task. So.
Everyone starts to wander. I mean, they've been doing this. Pride was doing this 20 years ago. They were doing crossovers, and the Japanese crowd was super open to seeing the guys in both sports. I think Americans are there now. I think we can
for sure it. And get me wrong, I think that UFC is aggressively going to go after leveraging Netflix as a partner when they go back to dealing with ESPN for contract renewals. Having said that, you see a lot of UFC stars kind of dipping their toes into it, who could be a thing. And just selfishly, the sooner you get in somebody here from somewhere else in the UFC, the quicker we get all out of this. Like, he has a very limited sense of work rate. They put a ton of time into him, and a lot of the guys love him. But they're like, man, he's such a good heel. And I'm like, he's not great on the mic. Yeah, but his ring two around, and Roman Reigns or whoever has to carry him works their ass off to make him look okay. But to me, I don't need them to look okay as much as I want to be invested in what they do. I feel like at least with a couple of these guys, they could really stripes. I feel like you could make some incredible inroads with a couple of them. Although I have to say, in the same vein, I feel like the time has passed for me wanting to see Conor McGregor at a time when I feel like it gets closer and closer. That dude showed up at a press conference yesterday, and all I could think of was, oh boy, the 2025 version of this doesn't ring as nice as that 2016 version. You know what I'm saying? Like, this just seems like somebody staggered into a best man speech at a wedding and not going well for a long period of time. So if I were to pick somebody else, though, I would pick a couple people just off the top. I feel like Chase Hooper is one of those guys who could translate that the people could get behind, like a Rey Mysterio. It's just like, I don't know, he's such a baby fan. And then if he happened to not be embraced by the community. Just look at what's happened with Dominic Mysterio. They have embraced this dude who, wow, look at that. That dude was supposed to be a good, he's a bad guy. Give him a hard
bad guy.
And when that happened, you're like, is the rib that he's supposed to be an attractive dude that women can't resist? Because amazing. All right, sounds great if you guys say so. So there are those. Just one more name to throw out. I don't want Felder. I don't want any of these other guys. Let's definitely say no DC. I'm trying to think of somebody that's got like a light sense of humor. You know what I want to see? Charles Oliveira to get that Brazilian audience. Because he's flashy enough that he could come in with the suit, pull the Ric Flair sort of a thing. He's got the submissions, so he already knows how to be a wrestler and grappler in that world. But I feel like he could hit you with like a couple lines and just holding up like, no. That does his one line, gets out of English. We're good. Hey, dude, I think that's where we need to go.
That's a good pick. That's a strong pick. I did not think about Oliveira. Yeah, I think he can.
Style is
I think he's
right
got some
there.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. But I see the note here from Wallow J, who mentions, think late 90s CBS had an American Gladiators knockoff show, and there was a character named T-Money played by T. Cruz. I can see Usman doing that. You know, the way you just described that makes me not want to see it. And I hope you understand why. It just doesn't sound appealing to me, because clearly Terry Crews had to do a lot more work to rebuild after whatever going on there. But yes, I think I remember. I just don't remember the name of it.
I don't remember the knockoff show. I remember the original.
Yeah, but the original also came back again. And last I saw, it's
not.
I will keep eyes on that in the near future. But why don't we go to our next topic here? Tim, why don't you update us? What exactly is happening with Wagner? Because I just saw an update on my Instagram. He was not doing well. So what exactly is going on with Wagner?
Man, lots of jiu-jitsu guys taking pictures in hospital beds lately. Apparently, Wagner was hospitalized for failure. I don't realize when I read this, I don't even exactly know what heart failure means. When you hear it, it sounds like your heart just stopped. Like engine failure means the engine ain't working. I think heart failure is a condition that rolls out over time. Obviously, it doesn't sound fantastic. It sounds terrible. So he was hospitalized for that. Not a lot of info on any underlying causes or exactly what's going on with him, but I think he spent several days in the hospital, was released. So, you know, he's a guy that's out there. He's out there grappling. He's in the news. So hope he, you know, in terms of his health, I hope he recovers well, man. That's a rough thing to go through. He's got a family and got all kinds of things going on. So best of luck to him.
And I'll say this, you know, heart failure is hard to define. I think it can be, for a lot of people, they may not have that full understanding. There's like congestive heart failure. It's they have to hit the thing. So when they said that he had some sort of heart failure, I didn't know the specifics behind it, but I know how serious it can be. So obviously it's something that you want to monitor. And I don't know what his doctors are going to tell him in his competition. I feel like that could be something that might be affected by it. It's just, if you know anything about Wagner, you know he won't be stepping away lightly. So I think it's more odds on favorite. You'll see a way to compete. But anytime you have something related to the heart, it's definitely, you know, cause for concern. So we hope all is well, but that was something that we just saw pass our news feeds, and it was news. Nonetheless, hoping all does resolve itself in a much better way. Tim, we'll now go to our fight of the week. Now, what can you tell us about the fight that you picked for us this week, sir?
And it takes place in a gym. Lately, I've been into gym fights. It's just kind of entertaining to me that people go to the gym to exercise, to kind of blow off steam, to, you know, like, oh, God, I feel good. I'm so peaceful. Just got all that stress out of me. These dudes go to the gym, not a fighting gym, a weightlifting gym. This looks like it's someplace in Omaha or something. And they got it. It's not, it's shirts versus skins. And there's a lot of aspects of MMA. It's only about a minute, 20-second round, which I want you to pay attention to how tired these guys are at the end. All these dudes who think they're super tough and they can fight and do all just a round of a UFC championship fight. These guys fought for 120 seconds and they were ready for the ventilator after that. But there's some strikes, there's some takedowns, there's some judo, there's some pin positions, there's some wrestle ups. This one has got a lot. Pay attention. It's one of those you probably should watch twice at least because there's some good stuff in it.
It's just, I'm sorry. You could tell it's SNL's 50th anniversary because you sound like Stefan. This fight, twinks, kinks, a little midget that doesn't know quite exactly how to get to the water fountain, everything.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm going to play it here, sir. Walk us through it and let us know exactly what we're looking at.
Okay, so we basically have vote for Pedro and Bobby Hill in a gym fight here. They're swinging. They're going to miss 4 punches. There's number 2, number 3, and then fuck it, I'm going to blast double. And now I want you to watch this nice Tayatoshi throw from Bobby Hill. He lands a couple strikes, hands down, and then steps in front and hits it, but Pedro reverses him. And he's going to mount, but he's been watching MMA. He's like, I'll just keep half guard. And he starts throwing some thunder. Now, Bobby Hill actually gets a hook in, and he uses it to wrestle up. I was very impressed. He eats a couple shots for his trouble. And right about here, they both realize how tired they are. And there's a little bit of a negotiation now between the two athletes. They're keeping tension, but this is a feeling out period. They want to just see, like, are we going to keep? Yep, we're going to keep going. Gonna keep going. Now, Bob uses a controversial tactic. He pins dude up against the wall. The whole gym is just watching. Nobody's stepping in. They're like, let him bang. And then here comes Uncle. Look at, he's coming up through the back, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing, man? I'm trying to get my leg extended in, and you guys are disrupting my peace. And they're like, okay, we're out.
So, first off, immaculate choice. And it definitely took you on many different journeys. Can I tell you my one concern that I have in this is, just to begin, for like the first observation I had? When I saw the dude take his shirt off, I feel like these types of are the stomach region. Like, when you don't have a six-pack, it's fine. Not everybody has to have one. But, like, when that dude got caught in that little front headlock, stomach expanded in a way that I go, this is unflattering. So you really, guys, if you get the opportunity to get into a fight, I guess I'm advising you to really consider if you shirts, because this one, I don't think we would have judged Bobby Hill if he had said, you know, I'm going to keep the shirt on for this one. Maybe he was in the moment. Maybe it was pre-pump. The only thing I need some context on here, Tim, and I don't know if you saw the comment section or it's offhand, but do these two gentlemen know each other? Was there any connection to knowing that or not?
I don't know. There was no context on, like, buddies to work out. There was on the calf raise machine too long. Did someone walk in front of someone's live stream of their set of butterfly, presses? I don't know, man.
Because the reason I have this concern is you brought this up. Get here. See those people in the row?
Yeah.
Okay. Those people are doing far too little, which makes me think they got to the phase where they say, nah, they got to work this out. Like, team, I don't have this, because if you've ever been on a sports team, you've seen fights break out, and you would think people would go kind of break it up, but sometimes you go, nah, these dudes have been at each other on the front line the whole fucking week, all go, because that's what the kids look. If it's not that, I have concerns. And I'll start with this. It looks like a field trip that came to a sudden and very concerned stop. Like they're going through, they here we're in the middle of a fight, and everybody just like doesn't know what to do but keep their head down and maybe their phone a little bit forward. Let's start with this. This is the concerning part. So Tim, this is what I was talking about with you got to make a choice. And here I have to say I'm going with vote for Pedro because most people let you wait to take off the rash guard or the t-shirt. Pedro's like, I've seen enough Power Rangers to know Zord, I got a shot here. There's nothing in decorum that says I have to let you take off this shirt. So we start off very good and utilizes it with some grips. Can I tell you my concern as an old person? That some went error and didn't find their way into hitting any one of these weights, which are not approved, which I have so much concern with. Now, Bobby Hill comes in. He got that first shot, and Pedro still not hitting the weights. Bobby gets up. He's about to address this with some fisticuffs of his own. Here's one thing I want to tell you guys. Don't get lost in the sauce. What does that mean? Do one thing. After hitting your opponent, take a moment to admire your work. Because here, this is time that you could have used to attack your guy. Instead, you're posturizing on the guy when he comes back. Yeah, you're going to hit this. Oh, that looks good. No, dude, he reversed it back. That would have been points for him and no points for you because you did not establish. Now you're fighting off your back and you're not Carlos Condit. So things are very rough for you. And here's where things get a little bit in the, I don't think they've had jiu-jitsu instructors. The straight out Homer Simpson choke that is happening here is one that kind of gives you an idea that maybe they didn't make it past the initial class. Nonetheless, that boost up, that's a pretty good mount escape. And I got to tell you this, Tim, I know we talked about the dangers of going shirtless, but the danger of shirt is look at how torn Pedro had that shirt now. Before,
yeah,
it was probably pretty fitted. Now, that thing's going to be a dress on him because look how much just off the wear and tear that has happened in this fight. Bobby Hill pushes up on the butt, wrestles up, gets in a front headlock. Now, you mentioned this as the moment where there was some negotiation that was happening. I see that towel. I could have considered that leaving the towel. Doesn't quite happen there. This is where I'm talking about the stomach being unflattering, Tim. I just feel like Bobby Hill, you didn't deserve that, man. Like you were fighting valiantly. You didn't need to be made fun of for this reason.
Shit. Had those nachos for breakfast, dog.
Dude, it looks like there's a Quado inside of that stomach. So he's just trying to live. He's trying to get some space here. And I have to say, Pedro also made good use of that workbench, Tim. So I'm pretty proud here.
He did.
Nonetheless, they decide a few more hits. And guys, if you were wondering how this was going to end, guess what? If you had, it would be stopped by the guy who played the Black Power Ranger in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You would have hit pay dirt on your bet here. So congratulations to both these gentlemen as they break it up. And I have to tell you, favorite person, it's not the Karen, a.k.a. Mrs. Guerrero herself, Vicky Guerrero. It's not the dude who just strolls up. Is the dude wearing the weight belt there with his hands on hip? As if to say, hey, are you guys done with this section? Because I was really hoping to work on some of my glutes and I needed the workbench. So if we could get that done, that would be.
He's got his depot brace on.
So before we call it here today, Tim, there was one thing that we should do in honor of Kevin, who is RIP, dead to us. But he did send something that he caught my attention. And it wasn't even him that necessarily found this. This was something that kind of availed itself to me when I browsed Twitter until me. But conversation happened between a friend of the show, Baby Goose, and Conor McGregor. So on here, Conor appeared at conference. Baby aggressive, coming in hot by saying books here.
Law of attraction.
Okay.
Win or learn.
Yep.
How to make me rich.
Yep. So, sad part is Baby Goose very quickly realized, oh, I'm getting ratioed here. But the post that Kevin sent is different than this post. He was kind of getting ratioed on the Instagrams. Conor or Conor's people screenshot that on his Twitter likes for people who arguably have read just as little as Conor McGregor's.
Bible's such an easy pull. What's his name, folks? The book that's in every hotel in the whole world, like the Bible.
Could you imagine if you're Conor McGregor
in the Bible
thinking that some sort of slam dunk? Like, bro, you have over 3 million who follow you. Let's say, I don't know, quick on his Twitter. I think I'm probably going off of old numbers, but let's say the Notorious. If I were to look at Conor McGregor, he's got 10 million. Okay, 5,000 like to that. You are sure being on Baby Goose, but that means that still 10 million of your followers. 5 books that you needed to give off, and you started Free Space, the Bible. Then you're like, what's more different, the Bible, the Quran? I know, I got that one. Anybody? How about the? How get rid? I read those. Let's make money. That's what we should do. I just want to point this out to Baby Goose. You weren't wrong in pushing and forging ahead, but you got the answers you from a dude who took the same out of whatever conspicuous substance he may or may not take to at least address and repost what it was that you had posited to him. So there's that.
That's great.
Why don't you go and tell the people where they can find you, sir, as we start to circle this out for the day?
Yes, sir. You can find me on your favorite social media platform at Inside BJJ. If you're in Nashville, come visit the Planet Nashville. And of course, if you're out on the West Coast in Northern California, please go see my students out at 10th Planet Stockton. Raph, it's been a great day. I haven't, but I just want to get some zings and some ribs in on them, just so I could lick my wounds and feel a little bit better about my most recent court loss. But it doesn't surprise me. After a win, he takes the day off. He's that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that off after a company holiday, calls in sick. This is Kevin.
Wait. I didn't realize that you were going to use the end of your time. You were reclaiming your bit. Promote your 30-second Kevin show. Listen, Raph, I'm hearing a lot of things about Kevin Sherrill. Are they true? Sounds like it. You know, honestly, it seems like you can count more on the people other organizations that fight with Kevin to be here than Kevin Sherrill. Like, it sounded like you were going into the deep cuts. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, first of all, Baby McGregor, you can't read. You're doing this at the end of the show? You know there's no way Kevin makes it to the end of the show. There is no feasible way on an episode He waited for your good nights to be like, let's see what he says about me. And it is true to form with him saying spa day. You know, it's going to be really an amazing sight to see here, Wallow, is when Kevin dies, it will be Kevin Spa Day Cheryl that is written on that tombstone.
The eternal spa day.
The eternal spa day. Tim, get on out of here. I will see you a little bit later. I'll close this up. My thanks to you. Great work today,
Thanks,
sir.
brother.
All right, you guys, that's pretty much going to do it for us here at the Bullpen. We appreciate you for joining in. If you like what we do, go ahead and follow me over at patreon.com/grappling hour. You can also find our merch at esparza.com/merch. All of those sales go to help this show. So I really do appreciate you guys. Much love and appreciate. It really, really does make a difference here. You can also comment and subscribe if you have already. It does help us out. Additionally, I see the like that just happened. Thank you for that. You can also find us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all at Grappling Hour. All rate, review, wherever you see it. It does, again, make a difference. And last but not least, we appreciate you guys. We will be back here next Friday with another installment. But we hope it's a day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.